But if you suck at computer forensics, at least if you get your PI license, you can now become a bodyguard. So not a bounty hunter, a bodyguard. There's a different license for the bounty hunter thing. So, yes, sir.
How does Georgia law apply using computer forensics for electronic discovery?
Again, some of that is a gray area, but in most cases for he asked if, how does it apply to electronic discovery? In a lot of cases, it's the same thing. In other cases, the electronic discovery component is actually working inside of the law firm. And if you are an employee of the law firm, and only that law firm, you are covered, you are fine. If you are a third party and you're doing discovery, you may have another problem. So yes, there is some gray area, again, where it's not easily defined, and I've seen it in other states where it has become a problem. So
basically saying, get your PI license or you're fucked.
Unless you only work for one company. If you're only working for like AT&T, but then when you want to go third party, he's saying, get your PI license or you're fucked. That's what he said. So yes, pretty much, unless, if you work for AT&T and you work inside the company, I'm just using AT&T as I'm not related or officially, but that's just the point, is that if you're inside a company, you're okay for just doing it for that company. When you step outside of that company and you want to do it on the weekends for yourself, you want to start your own company or do something else like that, now you have to look at what the requirements are to be a PI and whether or not you actually fit into that, or you've got to spend 2 years working for a PI before you become one, or if you're ex-law enforcement or something like that. So, yes. So, basically, this is a list of the qualifications for Georgia, that if you wanted to become one. And the points that I'm trying to make here is that you have to work for a detective agency. In Georgia for 2 years, Michigan it's 3 years. Each state has their own list. And then the other thing is at least 2 years experience as a supervisor, administrator in in-house investigations. And I can clarify that typically that does not mean IT investigations. There's some things coming up you'll see in a minute, but ultimately they mean the security guard who sits behind the counter looking at the little video screen watching you come through the door. That's what they mean. He is the security administrator, in-house investigator. That's who they mean. Not you sitting there at your computer looking at stuff. They may allow you, the board may rule that you are okay with your skills, but typically not so much. So, and then your other option is obviously you've already been a law enforcement, which, how many law enforcement guys are working only on computers? So, or a 4-year degree in criminal justice. How many people got that? Yeah. All right. Woo. We got 2 or 3 people we can call.
I think I spotted a Fed.
Spot the Fed. So I just want to say something about some other states. So like Nevada. Nevada has a similar requirement, but this is one of those where someone actually questioned them about whether or not IT investigations applies to being able to get your license just because you've been doing computer security. And they basically said they do not count computer forensics towards the required experience for a private investigator. So they have clarified, at least on one front. You might have to go state by state to ask them. It may be different in each state, but I'm just saying there's so many variations. They want to have it both ways. You got to, they want to buy you, but you're basically paying them to be your friend. That's what's happening here. So, all right. So, and then I was going to say, from a standpoint of the people that this applies to, it does not apply. There's actually specifications in the law that say it doesn't apply to these people. So, for instance, it doesn't apply to like an insurance agent or an insurance broker or someone who does some, credit card stuff like Choice Point or something. People who actually have sold your information to other. Anyway, regardless of that, I'm just pointing that out that it doesn't apply to any of these people. But they basically forgot to exclude CPAs and other professional licensed organizations. They ignored them altogether. They just didn't mention them at all. So now if you're going to change the law, that's going to be a big deal because now those people aren't one of the above that the law applies to, even though they should have been excluded. So basically, when it's sitting on the governor's desk, this is the point, is that the bill basically passed House and Senate. It's sitting on the governor's desk, and it didn't go into effect immediately, so it wasn't a law yet. So the governor has an option to veto the law before it becomes a law, which didn't happen in Michigan. It just went into effect. So bam, you're there. So, of course, I find this out, and it's only like 2 days later, so it's like April 6th or something like that. And I made a gagillion phone calls and emails and called everybody I knew on the planet, and then basically this is what would have happened if we were not able to get this law vetoed. So basically we're looking at the fact that we could be imprisoned for not less than 2 years 5 years, it's a felony, and you get your fine. So, of course, I'm calling everybody I know, trying to get rid of this thing. So I see now I am not on like the list of things that the president of the Board of PIs or the president of GAPI, which is the Georgia Private Investigators Association, were sending out. So people started forwarding me these things as they were getting them. They're like, oh, now all of a sudden everybody's up in arms and they're my friends. So now they're sending me things to help me try to fight this in April 2006. So I got this, and basically it says, the governor's office, I heard from today, blah, 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 that that this bill, HB 1259, has perceived unintended consequences. And if we don't hurry up and do something, basically what's going to end up happening is that we're going to have no hope of getting this bill through. So they got more than 100 emails and phone calls, and it's his guess how this got started, blah, 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 as much as anybody else's. So basically, he lost. That basically got defeated. Hundreds and hundreds of people, CPAs, groups of people had called in, and the law got vetoed. So at least, in this phase, and it's not me alone, hundreds of other people got involved. So at least from that standpoint, you guys at least can make a difference by making people aware and just badgering people to death for days and days and days. So we did this in about 2 weeks. So we got lucky.
Is that a brute force attack then?
Yes, it's a brute force. Brute force with dial-up. That's how you do it. Because later on, I heard that they said they got no emails. Well, obviously that's not true. So somebody got rid of those. But the hundreds of phone calls they couldn't get rid of, okay? Because there was at least 1,000 emails that I know of. So, yes. Well, as soon as I got the CPAs involved, the CPA, they basically blasted them to death. So, and then there was some meeting and the CPAs got invited to with the governor that I didn't get invited to. But anyway. So basically, this is what the governor decided, and this is what he stated as to why the bill got vetoed. It's to expand the penalties from a misdemeanor to a felony without revising the definition could result in unintended consequences. Therefore, I vetoed the bill, Governor of Georgia. And so, at least from that standpoint, CPAs and a number of other people, including things like, there's a number of different categories of things like maybe DNA testing labs or something that may be affected by these things who don't have a professional license, don't have a doctor on staff or something like that. So there was a lot of others I had heard about. But some people just viewed this as, okay, we defeated them and we're done. We don't have to be we don't have to become a PI or something like that. So they misunderstand that all that changed was the one word from a misdemeanor to a felony. That's what changed. They're still saying, and there is an HTCIA video on the day after it was videoed where the president of GAPI or the president of the Georgia Board of Private Investigators and the senator that sponsored this bill showed up basically and had a discussion and basically told us all, they started out the conversation by saying, we didn't intend to affect any of you. None of you are going to be affected by this. And then by the end of the conversation, they kind of switched roles and said, you all have basically committed a misdemeanor, a crime, and so you're just upset because now it's going to be a felony. So you guys can all watch this video. I swear it's out there, or I'll publish it if it's not out there. I've got it. So that's basically the point, is that, again, it's, refer to port scanning. Who wants to be first? Who wants to be the first person to challenge this? They wanted to get it accepted anyway, even with these other, consequences, but they got vetoed. So at least from a standpoint of the other fields that may be affected, you got handwriting analysis, I already mentioned, medical testing labs. If they don't meet this qualification, I don't know who does. They take money, they're a third party, they use science to tell if a person has a habit. That's pretty straightforward right there. Oh, he's a druggie. Yeah, okay. So